Hi, I'm Dave Dinkel in a 2-minute special series tips. And the question in this one is, how do I sell the property I get? Now, I covered already who do I sell it to. The question now is, how do I sell it? When you put a property under contract, I'm going to call it a buyer's contract. You're the buyer. And the clauses that are in there are very specific to what you're trying to achieve with the seller, the homeowner, for example. So closing dates, inspection periods, any additional things that you need. Now, what we do is we send in those contracts already signed. We initial, sign, add addendums to it. So when either the seller or the real estate agent sees it, it's done. And it's signed. It means we're committed to the contract. But let's go one step further. Let's say that you, in fact, do get a seller to say, okay, and I hope it happens many times to you. And if you do it right, it will. But now you have a signed contract by both of you. You as the buyer and the seller that owns the property. So now what do? You have to sell it. So let's say you put it out to your list. You've built your list properly. Somebody comes along and says, I want to buy it. Now you have two options. You can say to them, send me a contract. Or you can say, I'll send you a contract. What's the difference? Well, if he sends you his contract, it's going to be all favorable on his part. You're going to have to jump through the hoops, read it carefully, and go by his clauses. If you send him yours, he's going to have to do the same thing. So if he's motivated, he's either going to negotiate with you or not sign it at all, which will not hurt you. But here's the most important aspect of doing that contract with your end buyer. When you send him the contract, if you sign it, initial the pages, you have just put yourself in a bear trap. Why do I say that? Because when he receives it, he now has a legitimate contract, and if he doesn't come to closing, he can hold your feet to the fire to stop you from selling the property. Now, if you say to yourself, nah, that's not going to happen, it's not true. It is true. For you guys out there that think you know it all, and I'm not being facetious, we do thousands of deals, so we see a lot of stuff that you haven't seen yet. And if that end buyer is a wholesaler that knows what he's doing, he will not give you a release of contract. And if you say to me, well, gee, I'm going to take his earnest money deposit. Okay, have you ever gotten an earnest money deposit without knowing how to get it? Most contracts say you have to go to mediation. In our contracts, we use a clause that says, strike mediation, closing agent, authorization to release, we hold you harmless, boom. They don't close on or before the closing date, boom. We have their earnest money deposit. We're not waiting for the closing agent to say, I know what the contract says, and you're absolutely right, except for one thing. I'm not a court, or I'm not a jury. So until you bring me from a judge, a release of funds, I'm not going to pay you. Well, the contract says, I'm not paying you because you're going to sue me if I don't, he's going to sue me if I do. And what have I got to win? Nothing, except attorney's fees. I'm not doing anything. So they leave it in their escrow account. These are the nuances that when you've been in the business a long time and seen a lot of things, you know to do ahead of time. Because, look, your biggest risk is your earnest money deposit, but why risk it? You'll see me say in some of the HUD reviews that I do, you always get a larger earnest money deposit from your end buyer, so if he doesn't close, you can take his earnest money deposit, and if you can't close, find another buyer in time, you lose yours. So what happens? You still make money when you close. You don't actually even close, you just get his check and you lose your earnest money deposit. So again, this simple tip about don't sign their contract when you send it out. Let them sign the contract. When the money comes back for the escrow deposit on their part, then you sign your part, and now you have a valid contract, but more importantly, you have an escrow deposit. And sometimes those guys, and I say those guys, we're those guys at times, we're wholesalers, they will say to you, look, I have 300 houses, I do 25 a month, I do this, I do that, my reputation is, and I don't put up more than a $100 deposit. Then don't do it with them. Because if you had to put up a $500 and he puts up a $10 or $100, you're going to lose money. His reputation doesn't mean anything. What matters is, are you going to make money or lose money on the transaction? And probability is he won't close so he can go and get the deal behind you. It's called black hat wholesaling. Oftentimes you find out at the closing table. And I get this every once in a while, transactional funny. I get a call. Here's my problem. Oh, you got a great deal. I look at it. Man, that thing is a super deal. What's the problem? I'm at the closing table. My buyer won't close, so he's walking away, and I can't close. I don't have any money. What do I do? There are solutions, okay? Extensions, various things. Not going to get into it here. Nonetheless, it's very important you understand that when you're on the other side, when you're the seller, that you need to do your contracting properly. I'm not giving you legal advice, but I am saying to you, next 2-minute tip, don't miss the series.